Pecos Bill and Slewfoot Sue. Characters: Judd,
Gunsmith,
Grammy,
Pecos Bill, Slewfoot Sue, Widowmaker.
Setting: this Reader's Theater takes place on the open plains of the great state of Texas, sometime in the 1800s.
Yoo-hoo, neighbors! Anybody home?
Well, honey man, did I hear you say neighbor? Are you new in this part?
Ma'am, I don't stand much of formalities. I can ride any critter big enough to hold me and shoot twice as well as any man I have ever met. They call me Slewfoot Sue, and I just moved into that ranch over yonder.
Pleased to meet you, Slewfoot Sue. My name is Bob, but most folks call me Chuck because whenever we're in camp, I like to hang around the jack wagon and grab myself a snack. My friend here is named, well, I can properly pronounce her name because I don't speak Coyote. She is old and wise, so we call her Grammy as I sing for respect.
Pleased to meet you, Human Soup.
The pleasure's all mine, Rabbit. You two have got my curiosity up, though. A coyote and a cowboy sitting out here like peas in a pod? Now, there has to be a good story in that.
It is a very good story indeed, but it is not our own. It is the story of Pecos Bill.
Pecos Bill? Well, I'm always up for an interesting tale. Would you consider recounting it for me?
Of course, there once was a family with many children, but there were 18 in all, each more active than the last, and the youngest one was named Bill.
I think the family must have been part coyote because as soon as a neighbor moved in 50 miles away, they got to feeling itchy, like someone was looking over their shoulder, so they decided to pack up and leave.
Bill's family drove west in an old covered wagon. The children would sit in the back and make so much noise that their ma and pa could hear thunder rolling. Everyone could tell that Bill was special even then. He used a white knife for a tasting right, and when they were in the world, he would hop out of the wagon and find grizzly cubs to wrestle.
One day, when Bill was about 4 years old, the wagon hit a rock as the family was crossing the Pecos River in Texas. Bill flew out the back and landed in the water. With so many pups making so much noise, it was a while before anyone noticed that he was gone.
Jumping Jack Pussified. How did he ever survive that?
He drove himself to swim along the way, but the current was too swift, and there was no getting back. The family of them talked about Bill since he was lost along the Pecos River. They took the point here, Pecos Bill.
I found him a wet furless pup sitting by the side of the river. At first I was wary. I had heard a strange creature called human beings. I kept my guard.
No one can blame you for that.
Granny didn't want any clear thinking Coyote would do. She hopped back and forth, twisting Bill Coyote's tail to see if he was friend or foe. Bill did that logical thing. He have hair a big hill, then he scratched hair behind the ears.
I knew then that this pup was meant to be a coyote. As leader of Coyote Pack 494, I resolved to adopt and raise him. Bill grew strong and learned the laws of the wild. We taught him to hunt, to howl at the moon, and avoid being seen when you don't want to be seen.
Lucky for me, Bill was not that interested in that last lesson. One day I came across the wildest looking man I had ever seen. I asked him what sort of man he might be.
Bill replied that he was not a mangy human. He was an honorable, brave coyote.
He was thin and imagining, but there was something too familiar about him to ignore. I decided to make him my friend.
Now Peck tried to give Bill every advantage of coyote life, but there was one thing we could not provide him.
Well, I noticed his right away friend. I said, there is something where every coyote has got, and you certainly do not a beautiful bushy tail.
Bill was horrified. He had never looked before, but he did then. Sure enough, no tell. He was human after all. Bill resolved to go in with Chuck to learn the ways of humans, but the pack never abandoned him.
I took Bill down to the river and got him clean up. Once we got him shaved, my eyes popped. He was the snake of 5 years. His name was my own long-lost brother, Pecos.
Well, of course I'm your brother, Chuck. Who else would I be? Whoa, you have company.
Hello, Chuck. Hello, Gabby. We were just checking on the cows. Care to introduce us to your friend? Miss Sue, my new present gunsmith, and my brother Pecos there.
Howdy, fellas. I'm your new neighbor on the west side.
I'm right pleased to make your acquaintance, Miss Sue.
I'm pleased to meet you too, Bill. Chuck and Granny here were just telling me a few stories about how you all met up. But we haven't gotten to your part, gunsmith.
Ah, well now, how I met Bill, that is a mighty fine story. It all began with Bill choosing one day to take a ride.
Yes, my horse tripped on a stone and came up lame. We were miles from camp, so I did the reasonable thing. I picked that horse up and started running for home.
Now, the king of rattlers is a 40-foot serpent with fangs the size of 2 jackknives. That day, he was lying in wait for the first creature he saw. When he saw Bill and the horse, he thought he had gotten doubly lucky because he could get 2 meals in one.
That viper wrapped its coils around me. We wrestled a day and a night, with his fangs inching toward my face and my hands around his throat. It was a real toss-up.
My brothers began my script works at the snake cut and dumped the illusion. Every last drop of venom was squeezed out and it was as skinny as a woodwill. Then he wrapped that snake around his arm, picked up this lame horse, and started coming back to camp.
The next creature Bill came across was a wild cougar. Now, cougars can be sweet and gentle with their friends, but if you catch one hungry or in a mood, watch out! This one was both hungry and in mood.
She was also big. I thinking that Bill and his horse would fill up her tummy. She leapt on Bill from behind. Quick as a whistle, Bill grabbed that snake from his arm, and wrapped it around his cougar snake, and the hop on her back and rode her. She bounced and bucked, but Bill never let go. After 3 days and nights, she finally collapsed and became a saint name was a bunny girl had invented bronco buses.
I want to be a cowboy, and with a cowboy's hat, it's birds of